Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier podcast for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV.
And I'm Joe Healy with DevilsDigest.com.
Joe, fall camp's just a couple weeks away, but more importantly, this is a historic milestone episode of Speak of the Devils.
You know, if you're a Major League Baseball player, this number is something that folks have been chasing for, I think, more than half a century to get there, and they haven't well over half a century, heck, almost 100 years at this point. And no one's really reached it. But we reached it in our own, different kind of category. But you know what? We did it. Let's give ourselves the credit.
Episode 400 of Speak of the Devils is coming at you right now. I think the last kind of themed milestone mark that we did was the episode 316, where everything was Stone Cold themed.
As it should be, because this is America.
So, yeah, a little bit of a history coming at you with fall camp just a couple weeks away.
And we've ramped it up because that 316 was, because I know in the last couple of years with these new digs, new technology, so much going on, transfer portal, we've done 2 years worth of episodes each of the last couple of years as far as it compares to the previous routine. You know, back in those olden days, 2018, 2019 before transfer portal and chaos. Yeah, we were doing our thing, but it's been pretty intense the last couple of years. So that number, that trajectory, I think, has sped up quite a bit over the last year or two.
And we're closing in on August 25th, the show's birthday, which is what, 13th birthday, start of season 14.
Yeah, we got a teenager, we got an unruly, pubescent, zit-having, stanky thing, still very lovable, of course.
All right, so some big milestones here, and so maybe if you come out to our live show at 100 Mile Brewing Company, I might drop some full numbers in terms of all the hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours that we've produced over the years, Joe. But yeah, as I mentioned, we don't just have the one live show at 100 Mile Brewing Company. We got a couple opportunities for folks to come out in the wild and interact with us.
Yeah, you're going to hear us talking quite a bit about it because the time is coming up at this point between these two live appearances that we're going to be doing out in the public, one of which we're just a few weeks away from, and then that 100 Mile Brewing Company appearance is going to be next month. The month of August is going to be a real busy and fun one for us at Speak of the Devils, and we certainly hope that you all will join us and be a part of it. We cannot do it without you. We do this for you, and we truly appreciate all the support, of course, through these 400 episodes and beyond. So we would love to see you out there to give you those pieces of information. Starting first, Saturday, August 3rd at Cactus Sports. You know it, you love it. It is the place for Sun Devil merchandise, 514 South Mill Avenue. Brad and I will be there doing a little pop-up episode, pop-up recording, again, kind of like we did at Burrito Express earlier this year. The time is not yet locked in, but the day is August 3rd. So get on down to Cactus Sports at some point. Obviously, we will let you know when we get things locked in for the time of day. If I had to guess, probably the afternoon, but we're not locked in on that. So that's going to be a big one, so we hope you can support that. And then we're also obviously making a heavy push Saturday, August 17th, so just 2 weeks after that Cactus Sports event. 100 Mile Brewing Company right there at Rural and the 202, ASU alumni owned and operated. It's a great spot if you haven't been there. We will be out there. Brad and I will be there. We will be joined, of course, by new athletic director Graham Rossini. He's going to be talking with us. He'll be taking your questions as well. Not only are we going to do some interview time for the podcast, but we're going to do Q&A for the guests as well. We're working on additional guests, and trust me, they're going to be great as well. We're going to have giveaways. We're going to be giving you our podcast swag like we always do. We're going to have raffles. There's free parking, free admission. It's all ages. So if you want to bring the family, go ahead and do so. It's going to be a great time. Once again, Saturday, August 17th. We created a Facebook invite recently, an event for it, so that if you want to just tag along on that, check that out so that you can keep in tune with what's going to be going on. Again, similar to the Cactus Sports event, haven't yet locked into time, but we're thinking late afternoon as well. That will be coming very, very soon. So moral of the story, Saturday, August 3rd, Saturday, August 17th. Come on out, support the Sun Devils, support the community. Support Brad Meat, Speaking of the Devils.
Like every other Saturday in that month. I mean, you got the Cactus Sports, you got the live show at 100 Mile, then you got the season opener, and the Wyoming Cowboys are coming to town. Ralph Amsden's fired up. He's going to be our Wyoming insider on that week. So it's going to be a lot of fun. August, of course. Football is almost here, and that also means that we're ramping up as we usually do on this episode. Joe and I are going to count down our 10 most important Sun Devils for 2024, of course, with the annual exception. Quarterbacks, it's just too obvious, especially this year. So non-quarterback rundown that we haven't even seen each other's list as of yet. So you're going to get some live improv here in terms of what we're going to see, but some authenticity as well. And also after we run down our respective list, you'll be hearing from new ASU defensive line commit Daeshon Morgan. Really good conversation with him. You'll find out why he thinks Kenny Dillingham is like Morgan Freeman. It's pretty interesting. Also get some barbecue tips for Austin for those folks heading out to the Texas State game. Joe, before we start with our number 10 pick and kind of moving our way towards the most important, who are some Devils that maybe just missed the cut?
So again, just setting the rules, establishing the boundaries here. These are the most important players, and I think we say it every year. Not necessarily a 1 through 10 list on the top players.
Yeah.
The EA Sports NCAA football game that dropped here today. We're not talking about the highest rated players from 10 to 1. This year is going to be real tricky, I think, different than other years. Looking back to last year, we were talking about it offline. We'll have to go back and check. I think that our top two, we're trying to remember what was 1, what was 2. Cam Scatterby was way up there. Isaiah Glass was way up there. He might have been number 1. And we know how that one went. So these are very intriguing lists to see how they pan out over periods of time. So we talked about ones you mentioned, ones that just missed the cut. So for me, I don't necessarily. I guess I could put names in there, but it's more along position groups because of the fact that there are position groups to me that right now seem like they're not necessarily locked in. So I don't, and this might create some opportunities for our list to be very different. I don't want to pick a player of importance if I'm not highly confident that player is going to be a high level starter. So just to give you some examples, left tackle for me would be like the number 1 most important position, but I think that there's some competition there. I know there are folks that that they think might be like the odds on favorite, but it's not necessarily a locked in thing. So again, that's going to leave that off the list. So you've heard me over and over talk about how concerned I am about the offensive tackles. If you wonder why I don't mention them in this list, that's kind of why. Because, who do you really pick?
Shout out to our position confidence rankings episode that we did a couple weeks ago, where we actually go into detail about how we're feeling about each of the groups in a collective sense.
So you probably won't hear anything from 2 to 3 of my most concerning position groups, because I'm also going to throw cornerback in that list as well, because there's some competition. There are some names that I could have thrown out. That one would have been a little easier. Also, and I'm not trying to make just this crazy barrage of rules. If there's a position group where there are multiple guys that start and those 2 guys are at like a similar level, it's tough for me to pick one, and it'll make more sense. I'm gonna make it make sense as we go through this. So I just got to complicate it like I like to do. Turn up the heat. We can't make it too normal. Can't make it too usual. But that's pretty much all I got to say on that. So I guess if I had to say ones that were just missed the cut, I'd say guys like LT Welch, Javon Robinson, that's like a slash deal, because I would want to say a cornerback, but which one? I don't know.
All right. So I think based on that, we will have some significant differences.
This has the potential to be, because we have a lot of lists that are like real close.
Yeah, and we don't compare just for the authenticity of it, and then they like doing this for more than a decade now. You kind of find lockstep, but yeah. So I actually have a few that you mentioned there that might be showing up on my list. A couple of guys that I have missing the cut are tight end Shimon Mateer. I think that's tight end position is going to be obviously important, especially the Marcus Arroyo offense. But I do think that between him, Marquise Douglas, Cam Harpole, I think that there's perhaps not necessarily one guy that's going to be a super critical. I think it's going to be a by committee approach. You mentioned the left tackle, Josh Atkins, this year. I'm putting him in that mix right now, but he's not the only tackle that's going to be on my list. But Atkins came over from Houston, or started at Houston, came over from Hawaii, where he started 13 games. It had some, an up and down spring as he kind of got his feet wet a little bit. And then, because to your point, Joe, of just having a kind of a general position, I had punter, because that's going to be a competition that plays itself out in fall camp with the move to the Big 12 and the style of ball that ASU figures to be now in this new conference. I think it's going to be of critical importance, but I just couldn't put them in the top 10 list as of now. So I think that out of the way, are we ready to go?
Let's fire it up.
All right, Joe, who's number 10?
Number 10, wide receiver Troy O'Meara. You lose Elijah Badger. You There's a lot of questions at quarterback. This is not my only wide receiver on this list. That's a little spoiler alert, but that doesn't give you a ton to work with. He's someone that had some flashes. Caught 20 passes, had 3 touchdowns, showed some flash as a bona fide red zone target. Obviously a big body guy, 6'4", 215. He's someone that they are going to need wide receivers to step up and be playmakers, especially with uncertainties at quarterback. So he's someone that I think has just a different physical dynamic than a lot of guys on the roster, and he showed some flashes last year. So if you can put that together, this could be a guy that has a very high ceiling at wide receiver. We just need to see it more consistently.
All right, my number 10 is somebody who's got to try to clamp down on Troy Mary in practices. Defensive back Keith Abney. I think he's a guy that is really just on the up. He had 8 games last season, had a pick, but the coaching staff feels really strongly about his potential. Smart guy in the Barrett Honors College, and is really starting to position himself. You see the way some of these guys have kind of separated in terms of like this next wave of leaders, of face of the program types. And so I think this guy has some Jordan Clark type potential in terms of being what he can be on the field and perhaps maybe even equally off the field as well. It's a bright kid, and obviously a position of need. At corner also has the ability to play some nickel as well. A very valuable piece in that secondary. Obviously, I think we feel pretty confident about the safeties, but the corners a little bit different. So I think we highlighted Abney as a guy, just the corners in general as a group that needs to step up. So I'm putting Keith Abney in the crosshairs there. I think that he's going to be pretty crucial for how this pretty I think high ceiling potential Sun Devil defense is able to get in 2024. If he's able to kind of play and take that sophomore step forward, ASU's secondary is in great shape.
So number 9 for me is a guy that I'm very excited to see on the field. I know he's chomping at the bit to get out there. In the time that he's had at a few other college destinations, he has really shown the ability to be a performer, and I know that he's just said and done all the right things despite the fact that he had to sit out last year because of some bogus NCAA nonsense. This would be safety Xavier Alford. Again, when he gets the chance to put a helmet on somebody that's wearing a different color, it's going to be a very special thing because he's had to sit out all of last year at USC and also at Texas. He showed some major promise, especially with the Trojans. He's coming into a position group that should be very strong, and it should be very strong because of what he should contribute this year. So if we're talking about, the importance, not just this is a good ball player, this is a guy that ASU is, fortunate to have. He's an important piece of this defense, which is going to go a long way in determining what this team does as a whole.
All right, my number 9, staying on the defensive side, linebacker Keyshawn Elliott. ASU's linebackers, I think, we're in pretty good shape. You got some solid play from Tate Romney and Caleb McCullough a season ago. Then they, of course, had the trio of linebackers through the portal, Zyrus Viaseu, Jordan Crook. But I think Keyshawn Elliott might have the highest upside of all of them. Tremendous numbers and productivity at New Mexico State a season ago, and I thought a really good spring. This is a guy I think in this scheme of Brian Ward can be a absolute monster. One of those linebackers that just like the Chris Young types of just like fill in every stat category with some crooked numbers. And I think that that's not to say anything that Viaseu or Crook might not contribute at a high level, or Romney or McCullough. But I think Elliott has the ability to be at that next level to elevate the entire position group. So I think ASU has a pretty good foundation, a solid high floor at linebacker. But I think Elliott has the ability to get that group to the next level if he can step up.
All right, well, here's an example where our lists have some similarities. So your number 9 is my number 8.
All right.
Keyshawn Elliott, linebacker. I mean, Brad just told you what you need to know coming over from New Mexico State. He's a stat filler. That was a very good New Mexico State program last year. As we know, as Brad mentioned, ASU made some major progress in its linebacker recruiting as far as the transfer portal is concerned, and they also bring back 2 key players from last year, so the group as a whole should be something special. But Keyshawn Elliott just has something about him. The credentials that he brings from New Mexico State, very, very appealing. And anybody that, again, can be that stat-filling guy that can get tackles, get TFLs, break up some passes, force and recover fumbles, maybe rush the quarterback, things that just basically where you can impact an offense no matter what they're running. That's a big deal. I expect him to be, one of the higher, if not the highest impact transfers, especially on defense, that ASU has this year.
All right, number 8 for me is maybe a bit of a cheat, but kicker. I think it's because we're going to have a pretty good kicker battle. We saw Ian Hershey and Carson Kiefer go at it in spring. Now you're adding, I believe, a 2021 all Pac-12 second teamer and Parker Lewis coming over from Ohio State. Of course, he made his mark at USC. Great name as well. Charlie Regal is really a big fan of the power that Parker Lewis is bringing to this. He has the ability to punt as well and has been working all offseason long on his punting as well. A guy that can blast some kickoffs, but I think it's going to be his place kicking where he's going to make his biggest mark for the team. But, of course, it's going to be competition. We'll see how things play out in fall camp. But special teams are going to be very crucial. ASU was pretty close in a couple games. I mean, that 3-9 a season ago, but one-score games, and you're playing those type of games. Special teams play is going to be essential. They had some up-and-down special teams play, but I think if they can get some good place kicking this year and have a reliable option for an offense that is going to be having a new quarterbacks and trying to figure some stuff out maybe early on in the season, having the ability to get those 3 points in some of these games that might be little less high scoring than we're used to in the Pac-12 is going to be very important.
So my number 7 is one that just missed the cut for you, Brad. That's tight end Shimon Mateer. As we know, the position group, the tight end position group for ASU, absolutely gutted from last year, with Messiah Swinson having used up all his eligibility, Jalen Conyers transferring prior to spring ball, and then Bryce Pierre transferring during/after spring ball. So there are a lot of opportunities, and I'm not horribly worried about the position group because I think ASU did a tremendous job in the recruitment that it did. I just believe that Mateer has the highest upside of all of them. Last season for Cincinnati, he had 23 catches and 5 touchdowns. Pretty good for a tight end. So he brings that resume to Tempe, and obviously he had a cup of coffee. I don't even know if he ever went to any classes at Colorado. I mean, does that even count? He transferred from Cincinnati to Colorado during the spring, during the off season, but obviously never played there. So I think that's a very big pickup for ASU in what he brings to this team, and also given the fact that there were needs at the position group. And so when I look at the offense, you really get the impression it's going to be a very, very run-heavy offense for ASU. There are question marks at wide receiver. There are question marks at quarterback. So ASU very, very seriously needs tight ends with an S at the end of it to step up and be reliable pass catchers and blockers. And I feel like Mateer is the top of the list as far as getting that done. So there's, again, importance. We're not just talking about the best players out there, but the ones that are going to be the most critical to this team. And I believe that he's going to be very important in year 1 for ASU.
My number 7 pick has some similarities to my number 9 in terms of being a guy that comes from perhaps a pretty deep group, but has the ability to kind of transcend that and lift the entire group up with his play. That's defensive end Clayton Smith. He told me at Big 12 Media Day that he's now at 250 pounds, still retaining that quickness. He looked real sharp in spring practices. It seemed like every day he's having 1, 2, 3 sacks, and he just was a absolute unstoppable force. Maybe that's a little bit ASU trying to figure out stuff how to tackle, but this is a guy that was a 5-star recruit, so obviously has the raw potential, and now he had some flashes at the second half of last season. Kind of battled some injuries early on in the year, but I believe he had 4 games when at least he had a half sack or more to kind of finish the year. And I think, we have a group with Prince Dorba, Elijah O'Neal, Justin Watley is going to be in that mix as well. There's going to be some depth, quality depth. But I think Clayton Smith has the ability. He has double-digit sack potential. And I think if you can get that kind of production from him off the edge with what we saw from year 1 in the Brian Ward defense, and now a lot of these guys are coming back and more comfortable. They're understanding the why of the defense. Clayton Smith has the ability to be a true difference maker.
So we're going to stay on the defensive line for my number 6 here. And this is a guy that is expected to take a significant leap from year 1, from freshman to sophomore season for ASU, and that's CJ Fight. 11 games last year, 15 tackles, 1.5 TFLs, but he's just someone that's built up a great deal of momentum in the offseason. And you couple that with the departures that ASU has had on the interior defensive line, also an injury to a guy like Anthony Cooper, who figured to be a significant part of the entire defensive line. That really just all gets put together and puts, I don't want to say pressure, but it makes CJ Fight's presence on this defense a very, very important thing. So needless to say, the expectations, again, from year 1 to year 2, that growth, the expected growth is significant, but it's not unfounded. It's for a reason. It's not just saying, hey, kid, you need to be better this year. It's, hey, this dude is developing. He can be a force. So, and you see that a lot. You get someone in as a true freshman, they contribute. And, I mean, you're out there when the bullets are live. You're trying to learn on the job training as it's going. So you get that full year under your belt, and then could really step into becoming a team leader and just a dominant force on the field if all the stars align. So I think he is someone, and there are other pieces along the defensive line and on the interior that are going to be important, that are very capable. There is some depth there, but I think he's one piece, especially because he got a lot of new guys to the program, even though he's only a second-year guy. I think Fight really needs to step into that leadership and performance role in year 2. And by all accounts, seems like he's cut out for that increase in expectation and performance.
That's a name you might hear on my side shortly. But right now, I'm taking maybe a bit of a swing here. Number 6 for me is offensive tackle Max Ihanachor. Obviously, right now you have a number of tackles. Kind of the tackle position is unsettled. As we talked about in our position confidence ranking episode, I feel great about the interior in terms of the center and guard positions. Offensive tackle, some questions. I talked about Josh Atkins in terms of just missing the cut, and he'll be in that mix with Jalen Clem, Bram Walden in terms of battling at that left side. Emmett Boley's coming back from the big time leg injury. It was great to see him get out and really finish spring on a strong note, but I think Ihanachor, and I think that the staff feels he might have the highest upside in terms of the entire tackle group. He's relatively new to the sport of football, being a basketball player, but tremendous frame, size, athleticism, former basketball player. I think that if he showed flashes, like he's a serious contender to win the right tackle job and be in a mix, at worst, and providing quality depth. And again, with those tackles, I have a lot of questions, concerns, and would love to see those answered, throughout the course of fall camp, because I feel good about the inside. If you can get a guy that can play to the high level that this coaching staff feels that Max can reach, I think that can just elevate the entire 5-man group and make a big time difference for an offense that is, obviously has some questions at some other spots, but if you can lock down one of those tackle sides with and play to the ability they think that he's capable of, I think that's going to be a big time boost for the Devils.
So we are halfway through our respective lists. So I think we've only shared one name and not in the same spot, right? Elliot is the only one that, at least for now. I mean, I would imagine that there are others that'll make their way through. So,
Yeah, we'll have 2 in a moment.
There you go. Yeah, spoiler alert. So my number 5, this is someone that I think just about everybody would say was the most important player on this football team last season, and probably heading in, if we would have done this list, in December, looking ahead to the 2024 season, I probably would put him number 1. But because of what ASU did in its offseason recruiting at running back, of course, I'm talking about Cam Scadaboo. I got Scad at number 5. He's a vital part of this offense, of course, in what he did last year, through a very difficult season, and all that was put on him, unbelievable. I mean, that's is just as far as like a guy, a Sun Devil guy. What he did just being a dude last year and taking on everything, that's legendary stuff for me. But, when you make the additions of Raleek Brown, of McCaskill, of Jason Brown coming in and returning the players that they do to Carlos Brooks, Kyson Brown. I mean, the list goes on. The position group is stocked. We've talked about that time and time again. So I think that Scat is obviously still an integral component of this team and of this offense. But as far as like the urgent importance of like, if he doesn't perform, this team is up a creek without a paddle, I don't think that's the case anymore.
Yeah, it's that depth that actually I don't have a running back on my list just because there's no slight to Scat, to Carlos, anybody. It's just I think there's so many quality options that Scat, a guy who literally was a multi-hyphenate last year in terms of what he was asked to do on the field. But so going on, now we're going to double up. Here we go. Defensive tackle CJ Fight is my number 5 most important Sun Devil for this season. You lose a guy like Deshaun Mallory, who meant so much both on the field and in the locker room. But I think right now you have a guy in CJ Fight who's ready, willing, and on the trajectory to take that next step. great spring, and obviously on the field, he looks like every bit of a guy that can be an anchor along that defensive, the middle of that defensive interior. Talked about just the skills coming off the edge. But you bring in some other guys next to him, and Jacob Kongaika, J.P. Dieter, Jeff Clark. But I think Fight has the ability, just being one of the young leaders, and already he's been thrust into a leadership role, on that leadership council, and just being kind of like Keith Abney, one of those Texas to Tempe guys that is slowly becoming the face of the program. In that defense, I think that of Brian Ward, you have a new line coach in Dyron Reynolds, who has a tremendous track record of developing pass rushers. So I'd like to see Fight take that next step and be more disruptive in the backfield. I think he's got the physical tools to do so. He's got the mindset to do so. Now, and if he and whatever player is next to him, whether it is Kongaika, a Clark, Dieter, maybe you move Watley in on some passing downs, I think that can be a real intriguing piece for Brian Ward. And I see a kind of puts together his defensive game plan and makes life pretty difficult for Big 12 offenses.
So as we get into our Final Four, it's either going to be like real similar or real different here. So we'll see what unfolds. For me, number 4, I mean, this guy had an incredible season last year. I know that Scat got a lot of headlines for the all-purpose role that he had, and Scat certainly deserved that. But this guy was the team MVP. We talked about him a bunch. Shamari Simmons just really burst on the scene, showed the ability to be an incredible playmaker in a lot of different ways. That leadership that he brings, that accomplishment that he had last year of just earning some hardware within the team, being one of the best players on the entire roster. With the departures of BJ Green and the like, he's coming back as the most accomplished defender from last year for ASU. So he's someone that I'm really intrigued to see what this season has in store for him. And once again, not only as a talented player, but it's going to be imperative that he performs at or above the level that he did last year, so that he can help guide this defense to help. I don't want to say carry this team, but the defense is going to have to be strong for this team to be successful.
All right, my number 4 player is a newcomer, cornerback Javon Robinson. Now, there's going to be a lot of different guys that are going to be competing for those corner reps. And losing Ed Woods in the middle of spring practice as one of the very experienced guys in that room, one of the few experienced guys also, that was a blow. But I think Robinson, who's coming over from Washington State, knows this defensive scheme pretty well, because they're obviously playing for Brian Ward up in Pullman. That really helped, and so I think when you have a cornerback room that includes the aforementioned Keith Abney, LaTerrence Welch, who is very talented but didn't get a ton of run at LSU. You have some very talented young players in that mix as well, and Ronnie Bimage, Keontae Bradley, some other freshmen coming in. But I think that Robinson is a guy, as someone who's been around major college football, has a few seasons under his belt, has the experience in this defensive scheme. I think that he's a guy that can become, and there might not be necessarily a true lockdown corner on this roster, but getting that consistency and that leadership, having that on and off the field impact, something that Robinson I think can do. And I think as spring went on, we saw him get more comfortable with his teammates and kind of falling in. And as more and more time went on, I thought that he's in great position to be one of those 2 starting corners. And with you're losing Ro Torrance, D Ford, and lost Ed Wood. So the opportunity is there, and I think Robinson's poised to make the most of it.
So I know our number 3s are going to be different because you already mentioned this guy in his position group earlier. It's just my hypothesis that ASU is going to be in quite a few close games this year. The Big 12 is interesting, kind of like we broke down when we went over the media day and the preseason poll. There are just a lot of teams chunked together that are kind of in a similar standing, or ones that you don't really know what to expect from. And if you look at ASU's schedule, you don't have those elite highs of the Oregons and the Washingtons or the USCs from their glory days. You don't have the lows of an FCS opponent or a low tier G5 opponent. It's just a consistent schedule. So I think it's going to be a lot of close games, especially as the quarterback situation figures itself out and other pieces well. So what does that bring you? That brings you heavy importance on place kicker. So I'm going to say Parker Lewis here at number 3. I would imagine, they bring him in. He's a seasoned guy, although it's been kind of odd for him the last couple of years, with being at Ohio State, but barely really even playing. But he's a capable kicker. He's obviously a local guy that the staff knows very well, from his time in high school. So I'd imagine he's going to be the kicker out there. It'd be kind of shocking if he's not the place kicker. But the expectations are going to be high in terms of just the need for him to perform consistently. We've seen inconsistent play at kicker and how that can cost you ball games. And I'm highly confident that it'll be more than one game that's decided by ASU's place kicker, and Parker Lewis is going to be the guy to determine whether those games end up as W's or if they end up as L's.
All right, number 3, and so this will be another dupe. Safety Xavier Alford. I think that while Shamari Simmons is the reigning team MVP, is an excellent defender. He provides a baseline for me of quality safety play, but just kind of like a few of the other positions, I think Alford has the ability to just kind of take everything to the next level. And with this, the importance the safeties play in this scheme, his talent, what we saw from him in camp last year, and just how outstanding he was through spring ball again this year. He's got terrific attitude, and seeing him now as one of the team reps at Big 12 Media Day was really cool to see. Just a guy who's always had such a positive attitude, and when you compare that or combine that with an immensely impressive skill set, I think you have the makings of an all Big 12 caliber performer. And so I love the potential that Simmons and Alford have in terms of maybe being that best safety tandem since Randall and Simone in Tempe. But I think Alford's play it has the potential to just be something that's extremely special, all conference caliber, and a guy that can really kind of pick up the whole back end of the defense.
So we made it to the top 2.
All right.
Process of elimination, I think we might have the same top 2.
Yeah.
I think so.
Just what order?
We'll see. Exactly. So starting with my number 2, the offensive line was a problem last year. We know that. But there was one very consistent piece of that, and that's center Lee Fautanu. And he returns. He's the leader of the offensive line. As you mentioned, at offensive tackle, there are question marks. We just don't know how that's going to work out. You got a guy like our guy, Ben Coleman, coming back from injury. He has all conference potential because he did that at Cal. And so him partnering with the likes of, Fautanu on the interior line, Sean Na'a as well. I think Fautanu is really going to be that pivotal piece. The center is, like your quarterback of your offensive line. And he is a talented, accomplished performer, a really bright guy. So not only his individual performance, but how he is able to influence the other offensive linemen around him. I don't need to tell y'all that the offensive line is going to be what dictates a lot for this season, and he's the leader of that line. So he deserves to be right near the top of this list.
So our order was then, I guess, flipped because my number 2, wide receiver, Jordan Tyson. ASU's passing game is the biggest question, or one of the biggest question marks on this team. And obviously you're going to have a quarterback battle. Sam Levitt's going to be battling Trenton Bourget and Jeff Sims to see who takes home that job. We talked about the questions at offensive tackle, but when you lose a guy like Elijah Badger, that hurts. You're never a better team when you lose a guy of that talent level. But Jordan Tyson's ability and the way he finished spring makes me think that he has the potential to kind of step right in and be that same kind of 800, 900,000 yard type of guy. The chemistry he was showing with quarterback Sam Levitt was really impressive. He's got the size, the speed. He's now healthy, coming back after that major knee injury he suffered when he was at Colorado. This is a difference maker. Now, the only reason that he's not number 1 on my list is I think that the wide receiver group is pretty deep. You mentioned Troy O'Meara, Milquan Stovall, Jake Smith in the mix, amongst others. But I think of that group, Tyson has the highest potential, the one that can be a legitimate game-breaking wide receiver 1. So I think that if that Tyson-Levitt combination and chemistry that we saw over the last 2-3 weeks of spring can continue to build through summer in fall camp and have that same level of effectiveness in the Big 12 slate, that could be a big-time boost. And because I think with the running game, I think we'll be pretty good. But if you can have that game-breaking ability, that's just everything that the Sun Devils need.
So Brad and I did, in fact, have the same top 2, but, that makes sense for this list where there's been a lot of, deviations and variances and differences. Of course, it's got to be a little different. Jordan Tyson is my number 1. I believe that his performance this year will largely dictate how diverse this offense is. If you just look at the roster and what you know about the players, you look and say, this team should be able to run the ball pretty well. Now, can they throw it? Can they keep defenses honest? So the fact that he has the potential to be the number one receiver, but more importantly, how he can do it. I mean, this guy can stretch the field in a way that we haven't seen since the likes of Frank Darby and Brandon Ayuk. I mean, those are usually, half of the Mount Rushmore of deep threats that we always talk about, right, at wide receiver. So for if Jordan Tyson's able to do that, if he's able to, not only be effective on his own ability, but also, of course, help the quarterbacks do what they need to do, that is going to be huge. For example, so to contrast it, let's say if Tyson just is inconsistent, or let's say if he's just not able to click with the quarterbacks, and that aspect of the pass game just isn't that dynamic, teams are just going to load things in and force ASU to throw the ball. And so you have inexperienced quarterbacks. You have an offensive line with some question marks. That's when things start tilting away from ASU's favor. Now then, if Tyson can be that deep threat that everybody expects him to be, and he's shown the ability to, and he's shown it on the field, specifically against Arizona State 2 years ago, then that is just a massive dynamic thing. As you mentioned, Brad, yes, there is a lot of potential across the wide receiver group, but there are also question marks. I mentioned Troy O'Meary. Great frame, has shown some, end zone playmaking ability. Got to be consistent. Stovall has done a lot. He's played college football for a very long time. He's caught a lot of passes, but we just need him to bounce back after, kind of a pedestrian year last year. Jake Smith has been out of action for far too long. We'll see what that brings. So, there are question marks about the others. So that loss of Elijah Badger, obviously that was a huge, huge thing. If Badger were back, this list would look very, very different. So I think Jordan Tyson is going to be a severely important piece of this team and how successful it is in 2024.
All right, so process of elimination. My number one, center Leaf Fatanu. So this might be, I don't know, I have to remember if Glass was 1 or 2, but might be the second straight year an offensive lineman tops the list. But yeah, we talked about the offensive line issues. We talked about it a lot. Everything they went through a season ago, and right in that middle, just given everything he had week after week, as there was 11 different starting combinations in those 12 games, was Fatanu. And I think now he's really kind of elevated his mindset, his approach. I encourage you to check out the sit-down series I did with him a few weeks ago. He's a guy that I think is going to be absolutely essential. And of course, the center position, kind of the center of that offensive line, it's kind of the linchpin of the whole operation. I think he's got some talented guys beside him. And it's going to be the chemistry building along that group is going to be crucial, and he's a big part of that. He's really kind of stepped up as a leadership in a leadership capacity, and obviously with a new quarterback, that center quarterback relationship is going to be crucial as well. So that leadership of just the offense as being one of the offensive team leaders, one of the overall team leaders, is going to be essential. And I think when you're going to a conference that is now really kind of swung over the last 10 years from just the kind of the throw it out, air raid, fast and loose, every game's in the 60s, track me type, to a much more physical, trench-oriented brand of football. Fatanu and his play is going to be, I think there's going to be no Sun Devil, based on this list. I think there's no Sun Devils his play is going to be more important into what the success of this Sun Devil team is, this program that wants to get back to the postseason and rebound after 2 horrid years. I think if he's able to stay healthy, you'll have a great showing on the interior, but I think overall you'll see much better results offensively for the Devils this fall.
I didn't delete my list this time. My cousin Andrew Velzy was busting my chops because he listened when we did I think it was the confidence one, and I deleted my notes, so I was going off memory, and it took me an exceptionally long time to remember everything I just said 2 minutes earlier. So prepared this time if we're going to recap the list.
Yeah, all right, so should we count it down from 1 to 10 now that we've made our way through?
Sure, reverse order. So the honorable mentions, I guess we'll throw them out there. So I didn't have anybody at cornerback or offensive tackle, basically. Number 1, wide receiver Jordan Tyson. Number 2, offensive lineman Leif Fatanu. Number 3, kicker Parker Lewis. Number 4, safety Shamari Simmons. Number 5, do-it-all guy running back Cam Scadaboo. Number 6, defensive lineman CJ Fight. Number 7, tight end Shimon Mateer. 8, Keyshawn Elliott at linebacker. Number 9, safety Xavier Alford. And number 10, wide receiver Troy O'Meary.
All right, so number 1, as you just heard, center Leif Fatanu, then wide receiver Jordan Tyson, safety Xavier Alford, number 3, cornerback Javon Robinson, number 4, number 5, defensive tackle CJ Fight, followed by offensive tackle Maxi Hanachor, then defensive end Clayton Smith, 7, winner of the kicker battle, number 8, number 9, Keyshawn Elliott, and rounding out my list, number 10, Keith Abney. All right, so that's we'll see. Maybe we'll make a graphic or whatever.
So I think I counted. So there are 4 that you had that I didn't. So that means obviously that we shared 6 of them.
That might be the biggest variance.
Because I don't think we certainly haven't had fewer than half. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The same. Yeah, that might be. But
a lot of questions.
It's a sign of the team, and because it's the thing is if again. It is it's a related but different. It's like a cousin of the, confidence rating type of thing in a sense. There's relation, but if the players aren't locked down, and that's kind of like what Brad said, even the ones that he mentioned, like Max and Hanachor, like some of these were handled with some qualifiers, like, hey, that's expecting that this guy is this, or, that sort of thing. And I get it because we don't know. There are going to be a lot of battles at some very important positions in the fall. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, our fall camp preview coming at you, I believe, July 30th. Should be hitting your feeds. So as we have just unveiled our list to you, it's also time to cap things off with a great conversation with 2025 defensive tackle commit, Daeshon Morgan. All right, let's start off with the big question. Why was Arizona State the right place for you?
Honestly, I would say Arizona State was the right place for me because simply when we went out there, like I said, I ain't never seen no mountains before. So we flew out there, we in a plane. I'm looking over, I'm like, dang, we don't see that in Texas, you know what I'm saying? It looked real nice. We get off the plane, we meet some of the coaches. We just from the first time we met, I was like, dang, these guys are real legit. You know what I'm saying? I got to know everybody. They all love my family. They all were cracking jokes early on. You know what I'm saying? They made us feel comfortable and they made us feel at home as soon as we met them. So that to me was one big point. 2 was they weren't scared or shy on their faith. I'm a big man of God. You know what I'm saying? And they expressed that to me early on. And I'm like, I would want to be in a place that kind of fits my morals. So that's one of the few reasons.
Awesome. So when you come out here, you get to see those mountains, you get to see the program kind of up close, face to face, and interact. What was kind of your read on kind of the team culture that Coach Dillingham is trying to instill here in Tempe? What was kind of your vibe when you got to be here up close?
Just seeing how everybody was so close knit, that also that was one of the reasons why I was like, man, I want to be here too. I want to be a part of what they have going on. Just from, like I always mention, my boys CJ and Justin, just from how they treated me, you know what I'm saying, how they treat their teammates and how some people look up to them, that to me is what I want to be as a leader or as a teammate, you know what I'm saying? So, and also Coach Dillingham, he was a hilarious guy who wouldn't want to coach cracking jokes here and there, you know what I'm saying? Not someone who's just serious the whole time. Somebody who, get down your level, talk to you, you know what I'm saying? See how you're doing as a man. That's what I like.
Speaking of Coach Dillingham, you mentioned he likes to have fun. Of course, he went viral for the video game prank a couple weeks ago.
That was hilarious. That was hilarious, man.
And as he likes to say, that his team is going to have the most fun while also working the hardest in the country. What jumps out to you? I mean, obviously he's a young head coach, but what jumps out to you in terms of being having your future head coach be a guy who also wants to have fun, but also wants to put in that serious work and finding that good balance?
Obviously, he's a young guy, yes, but to me, he got wisdom beyond his years. When I'm sitting there on the phone talking to him, he reminds me like Morgan Freeman in a way. I don't even know why, but he just, he's always bringing some wisdom, bringing knowledge to my head. Teaching me some new things. He can joke, but he knows when it's time to be serious, and he knows what he has to do to just get his team to focus.
What does that do from a player's perspective, knowing that you have a guy that has that wisdom? You mentioned kind of wise beyond his years, but from what is it like just playing for a guy like that? Because coaches come in all shapes and sizes, but what is it like? What do you think it's going to be like playing for Coach Dilly?
Honestly, it's probably going to be one of the most fun experiences I ever had, honestly. He's gonna make me better day in and day out. He's gonna make the team better. He's going to help us on our goals not only on the field but off the field, pursuing a degree. He's gonna make sure we get it, and he's gonna make sure that we have our families taken care of. That's just the guy I want to be around.
Of course, your future defensive line coach and Coach Reynolds, a guy who has a pretty impressive resume throughout his career. Working with the Pass Rush Summit and some of the big names he's worked with over his career. One of the guys in Dwight Freeney is going to be in the Hall of Fame here in a couple weeks. What jumps out to you about the possibility or the future of being coached by Coach Reynolds?
Coach Reynolds, oh, from the get go, I just liked how you know down to earth he was. He's one guy that he teaches you everything. He's not always yelling, yelling, yelling. He doesn't attack the person or he doesn't attack the player. You know what I'm saying? He attacks the problem that the player's having. So say I'm struggling on some sort of block or whatever it may be. He will break it down to where I can understand it, show me a visualization on in a game or whatever, and kind of go help me go through the motions, just practicing what I have to do. He's not, and I respect somebody that can, teach me instead of just try and just yell and yell all day. You know what I'm saying? That's not how I learn. He learns to coach you how you should be coached, I guess I should say.
For any ASU fans out there who maybe not caught your film or seen you in action, give our viewers and listeners a scouting report on what kind of skills you bring to the field.
Well, everybody playing on defense, they hard hitters. I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna hit hard. You know what I'm saying? These quarterbacks, we're gonna scare them boys. They don't want no smoke with us, you know what I'm saying? Um, I am I would say not only physically but mentally I'm sound when it comes to the game. I do my best to study the field, study how the offenses play. I'm going to get after whoever it is in front of me. You know what I'm saying? I am a very physical guy as far as power moves. I use a lot of my power. I'm not really I mean, I can do it all, but power is my main thing. You know what I'm saying? I will I'm gonna run to that ball. I don't care what it takes, you know what I'm saying? I got a goal and that's ultimately to make it to the NFL and get my degree. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get that. So, y'all got me.
Any pros that you model your game after, or certain guys at the on Sundays that you take a few things from?
I want to say Cam Jordan. You know what I'm saying? I want to say Cam Jordan. I'm a big Saints fan, and just the way how Cam is just how he's so passionate about the game, how he carries himself. He's a jokester. I like to joke around a little bit, but I'm focused for the most part. I like to joke a little bit. He's a really good guy. He's always giving to his community, and he's a good leader. I also want to say Miles Garrett. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be like, what I'm saying, muscled up like that. You know what I'm saying?
What's your favorite part of just life in the trenches? Being up front in the most physical part of the field.
My favorite part, definitely taking somebody and putting them against their own will. You know what I'm saying? Just throwing them, getting them out there. Moving them out my way, making somebody who think they all big and strong, no, they're really not. You know what I'm saying?
So, with your versatile skill set, where do they see you projecting along that offensive line in the future, or the defensive line in the future?
I will be a three tech, and we'll be able to move around a little bit, but mainly in that three tech, making those close quarter moves. You know what I'm saying?
And I believe you have a background in playing a little bit of rugby. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I do. Shout out to
How'd you
Coach
get?
Reed.
How'd you
I'll
get
say
into rugby, and then how does it kind of influence and help you on the football field?
okay. I kind of got into rugby from this. We had an offensive tackle at our school, Ian Reed. He's at Clemson now. He just kind of walked up to me one time, him and his pops, and they was telling me like, "Yo, you should do rugby." At first, I was like, "I don't know," but I'm like, "Yeah, might as well try something new." So got out there, and since we just had so much contact, just hitting, I was like, "Yeah, I'm starting to like this." And I got the ball in my hands as a big dude. We don't always get the ball, you know what I'm saying? So when you can
Good
run
point.
with it, and people will try and run away from you because they don't want to get hit, free try as they call it, and that's basically a touchdown. But and I would say how it helped me, definitely from a tackling standpoint. The tackling is so like their main focus point when it comes to rugby is how you tackle somebody. You know, you don't want to tackle with your head. You want to actually wrap the legs. You know, drive your feet and bring them to the side. You know, you got to be protected when you tackle so you don't hurt yourself.
What kind of person off the field is this Sun Devil program getting?
Honestly, y'all are gonna get. I'm gonna keep telling you how it is. I'm probably gonna be one of the realest dudes. Y'all will have one of the realest guys y'all have on the team. Just like everybody else, I'm a very respectful man. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm a man of God first. So I will definitely be in those FCAs. I'm gonna be helping the community in any way, shape, or form I can. And that's my big thing right there. I want to be able to help the community. So if there's any way I can get connected with somebody, please let me know. Hit me up because I'm trying to get that going as soon as I get there. Um, just yeah, all in all, respectable guy, good man of God, and it's a great teammate.
And of course, you're not going to be the only Texan out there. There's so many fellow Texans out there on that roster right now, and on the way in is also in that 2025 class. What is it? How much of a factor was that the Texas to Tempe movement in your decision, having just so many Texas guys there with you?
Honestly, it made me feel more at home, if anything, because it's different not being in Texas, but there's more life, there's more outside of life than just Texas. So being there, having people around you that are familiar with the same area, you can probably come back with once you have like a break or go hang out, do something.
What makes Texas guys different? I mean, obviously there's so much, obviously the quality of high school ball there. And there's a question I like to ask a lot of Texas guys, but what do you feel kind of sets a Texas player apart from maybe a guy from California, Florida, Georgia, and elsewhere?
Yeah, I'm about to say they're not gonna like to hear this, but it is football. You know what I'm saying? Texas. So we're from the moment we grow up. We're told we need to be out on the field hitting. We're not soft. We all. God, I just studied on live. That's crazy. We're hard workers, and I would definitely say the respect factor in Texas is a little different. That's Southern hospitality different. So we always saying yes sir, no ma'am. I know it has nothing to do with it, but just wanted to put that out there.
So you're from the Austin, Texas area, and obviously that's a cool spot. Got to ask you your resident native opinion there. What's the best barbecue in Austin? Obviously, Franklin's gets a lot of love. Terry Black, Salt Lick out there. What's your go-to barbecue spot in your hometown?
I was about to say Salt Lick, but the best barbecue was mine with my grandpa when we cook it,
Okay.
because we be throwing down. If you don't know about me, I know how to cook. You know what I'm saying? You don't cook, you don't eat. So that's my thing. My grandpa's barbecue, help him out. So I feel like that's the best one. But as far as a restaurant, I would definitely say Salt Lick. Salt Lick wins.
What's some of the keys to Grandpa's recipe?
So I was the main takeaways I had was just the way you season everything. I'm not gonna lie, we ain't you don't be light handed. You really gotta throw it down, you know what I'm saying? Season your food. Definitely letting it marinate. You don't just do it the same day. You let that food marinate overnight.
Okay.
Um, he has like this. He does this barbecue sauce. He adds. I'm not gonna tell y'all everything, but he adds a lot of seasonings to it. He kind of mixes ingredients. He does like say a lot of brown sugar or some some onion, garlic powder, Old Bay. He does all these things. He puts in there, and he lets that sit in the fridge overnight. And he puts it over the grill to heat up. I don't know what it does, but I don't know. Some magic happens, and he puts it
Awesome.
on everything. It tastes so good.
So, in the future, you'll be playing for a Sun Devil team in the Big 12 conference. This will be the first season that the Devils will be out there. What's it like just, your future kind of playing in the Big 12? Obviously a huge Texas footprint for the conference, but, your thoughts on the ball in the Big 12?
We just ready for the competition. All the, media can say Arizona's this, Arizona State's that, but that doesn't matter. We're a different team. You know what I'm saying? All these recruits coming in, we're ready to learn. We're ready to work. We about to show the Big 12 what Arizona State's about.
And then when you look ahead to this particular fall, your final season at the high school level, what are some of the goals that you have for yourself and some of the things that you're going to be working on to prepare yourself to that jump up to major college football?
So definitely, like I say, the speed of the game. When you play 6A, the game is fast, but going into college is it's faster, you know. So I'll be in the 3 tech a little bit more. So I'm definitely gonna be I've been working this whole summer, just training with Coach Greg, doing 2, 3 a days. We've been just working, just close quarter moves. You know, I'm definitely big on trying to, you know, getting my responsibility done first. Then, you know, getting the cake in the backfield. You know, what I'm saying, eating the main course up front. You know, getting the lineman off you, doing your job, and then going to make the play. So I definitely would say I want to get more sacks this year than anything. I want to have a better pass rush. You know, I'm utilizing my long arm a little bit more. Um, all in all, the team, I just know this team this year, we're going to go crazy. You know, we're going to go in the playoffs and we're going to go deeper than we did last year. So I'm ready to see our team strive. We're ready.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Speak of the Devils. I'd like to thank our guest, Daeshon Morgan, ASU's newest defensive line commit. Of course, things are ramping up. Fall camp just a couple weeks away. Definitely want to keep following us on the social media side of things. All kinds of updates on our live appearances as well as great show updates. Make sure you follow on Twitter at SOTD Podcast, on Instagram at Speak of the Devils. Follow along on Facebook and you click that handy event invite on the page at facebook.com/SOTD Podcast, and subscribe on YouTube as well. Give me a follow at bdenny29.
And you can follow me at Joe Healy42. Huge shout out, as always, to our wonderful sponsors, Jones Auto Group. If you want a vehicle, if you're in the market for a vehicle, if you're going to be in the market for a vehicle, you want to buy from someone that you trust, someone that's a Sun Devil, just like you, hit up our guy, Parker Jones, 602-881-8998. He wants to hear from you. It's a cell phone. He wants to hear from you if you're in the market. Again, Parker Jones, 602-881-8998. Become a subscriber to devilsdigest.com if you're not already. If you are, give that gift to somebody in your life. Like, bless them with it. Preach the good word of devilsdigest.com. We're in the only slow time that exists in college sports. It's about to ramp up. Trust me, when we get to the month of August, you need to be in the know. Get on there, devilsdigest.com. Cactus Sports, we will be out there August the 3rd. Check us out. We don't know what time, so just shop all day long. That's the only way that you can go about doing it. That's the solution. You can shop online at cactusports.com, and obviously that store location is at 514 South Mill Avenue. A big thank you to our wonderful food sponsors, starting with Burrito Express. It simply doesn't get any better than eating at BE. It has been far too long since I've been there, and they got that new one that's not far from my gym. I think I need to do not a cheat day because it's good food. You know, refeed is what they call it. Refeed. Give me some carbs, give me some protein. We'll be good to go at BE, and you could definitely do the same at Spaghetti Shack, of course. Not just ASU alumni owned and operated, but owned and operated by a former Sparky the Sun Devil. So you know this place has a true passion for Sun Devil athletics that's thicker and meatier than the sauces that go on their spaghetti. So go ahead and eat at Spaghetti Shack. And last, of course, but not least, Sun Devil Family Charities. Check them out, sundevilfamily.org. A great ASU-centric cause for you to support. There are a lot of ways that you can get involved. And, oh, by the way, that live show we're doing on August 17th at 100 Mile Brewing Company, part of the proceeds that the bar will be making that night will go to support Sun Devil Family Charities. So by you attending, supporting us, having a great time, spending some money, having food and drinks, you'll also be supporting a very worthy cause as well. And again, their website, sundevilfamily.org.
And make sure to support the good brand Home Field Apparel at homefieldapparel.com. And I should say, they are the newest, or Cactus Sports is the newest partner of Home Field Apparel. You'll be getting able to get a lot of cool stuff from the Home Field ASU collection, which I believe is pushing 30 items at this point, later on this month. But if you want to shop online, homefieldapparel.com, offer code SOTD23 gets a 15% off your first purchase there. Make sure to give us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. Joe and I will be back for episode 401 as we preview fall camp.